Victoria gripped the steering wheel a little tighter as she pulled away from the church parking lot. The afternoon sun reflected against the deep blue paint of her Genesis, but her mind was nowhere near the road. All she could see was Sister Sadia's hand resting on Logan's chest. The image replayed over and over in her mind. Do you have the address? And then, oh, you have the address. You've been to my house many a times. Victoria swallowed hard. The words weren't what bothered her the most. It was the confidence, the familiarity, the comfort. Sadia had spoken as if Victoria wasn't even standing there. For months, Victoria had noticed little things, a smile here, a conversation there, the way Sadia always seemed to find a reason to be near Logan whenever church activities were taking place, but Victoria had brushed it aside. She never wanted to be the woman who imagined problems where none existed. But today felt different. Today felt intentional. Today felt personal. As she drove home, she found herself asking questions she never thought she would have to ask. Why was Sadia so comfortable touching him? Why did Logan just stand there? Why didn't he introduce me properly? Why didn't he move away? The more she thought about it, the more unsettled she became. At one point, Victoria had decided she wasn't going to the dinner at all. She could simply go home, change her clothes, make herself a cup of tea, and spend the rest of the evening in peace. But another thought quickly followed. No. Victoria decided that she needed answers. Not confrontation, not drama, answers. Victoria was beginning to care deeply for Logan, and because she cared, she needed to understand the world he came from. Who was Sister Sadia really? Was this harmless church familiarity? Or was there history nobody had told her about? And perhaps the biggest question of all, did Logan realize how uncomfortable the entire interaction had made her feel? As she pulled into her driveway, Victoria turned off the engine, but remained seated in silence. The dinner invitation suddenly felt less like a celebration and more like an opportunity to observe, to listen, to learn. Because before she allowed her heart to go any deeper, Victoria needed to know exactly who Logan was when she wasn't around. And tonight, she intended to find out. Victoria stood at the bathroom sink, splashing cool water on her face, hoping it would wash away the confusion that had followed her home from church. The image of Sister Sadia placing her hand on Logan's chest played over and over in her mind. The words, "You've been to my house many times before," echoed louder than she cared to admit. When she finished, she walked into her bedroom and sat quietly on the edge of her bed. For a moment, she considered not going at all. Maybe it would be easier to stay home, avoid the questions, and pretend none of it bothered her. But deep down, Victoria knew she needed answers. The only way she was going to get them was by showing up. It was in that moment that she missed her cousin Lynette. A heaviness settled over her heart as she thought about all the times she would have picked up the phone and called her. Lynette always knew what to say. Sometimes she would offer gentle advice, and other times she would tell Victoria exactly what she needed to hear, whether she liked it or not. Victoria smiled faintly to herself. Girl, put on some jeans and a t-shirt and go and find out what's going on, she could almost hear Lynette saying. But Victoria shook her head. No, she whispered. There will be no drama. Whatever was happening, she refused to allow it to change who she was. She stood and walked toward her closet. After a few moments of consideration, She chose a light blue shell, a tailored jacket, and a knee-length pencil skirt. Elegant, respectful, appropriate for an evening among church members, pastors, and guests. More importantly, it reflected the woman she had worked hard to become. She carefully laid the outfit across the bed and began preparing for the evening. Then, being the practical woman she was, Victoria made one final stop in the kitchen. She pulled something from the freezer and set it aside so she could warm it up later when she returned home. She wasn't sure what kind of atmosphere she would encounter at Sister Sadia's house, and she certainly wasn't sure she would have much of an appetite once she got there. With everything prepared, Victoria took one last look in the mirror. Tonight wasn't about jealousy. Tonight was about understanding. And one way or another, she intended to find out exactly where she stood. Victoria sat gracefully on the edge of her bed, reaching down to put on her shoes. As she glanced towards the nightstand, she noticed her phone screen was illuminated. Because she had silenced her phone for church, she hadn't heard it ring. Two missed calls, and now another incoming call. Logan. For a brief moment, she stared at the screen before answering. Yes, Logan? There was a short pause on the other end. Why did you answer the phone like that? He asked. You usually say hello. Victoria looked away. Oh, it's nothing. But Logan wasn't convinced. Do you want me to come and get you, or would you rather meet me there? Victoria immediately thought to herself, be best to drive separately. If things became uncomfortable, she wanted the freedom to leave whenever she chose. No, she replied, I'll drive myself. Something in her voice caught Logan's attention. Victoria, he said softly, are you okay? She hesitated. I'm not really sure, but I know one thing. I'll be okay. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then Logan broke his silence. Do you remember that day in the park? Victoria smiled faintly. The day we sat there eating ice cream? Yes, she answered quietly. I remember. The day I asked you if you would be my girl. A lump formed in Victoria's throat. Yes, Logan, I remember. His voice became firm yet gentle. Then, I want you to remember something. I asked you to be my girl, and you are my girl. Victoria opened her mouth, ready to finally ask the questions that had been running through her mind since church. Who is Sister Sadia really? Why was she so comfortable with you? Why didn't you say anything? But just as quickly as the questions rose to her lips, she pushed them back down. Not yet. She would watch, she would listen, and she would let things unfold before drawing conclusions. I hear you, she said finally. Logan smiled on the other end of the line. Good. I'm glad you hear me. A few moments later, he asked once more, are you sure you don't want me to pick you up? No, Victoria answered. I'll meet you there. Okay, I'll see you soon. After they ended the call, Victoria slipped her phone into her purse and took a deep breath. The address Logan had texted her earlier was already programmed into her GPS. She grabbed her keys, straightened her jacket one final time, and headed for the door. Whatever answers she was looking for, she had a feeling she was about to find them. Victoria stepped out of her house and walked over to her dark blue Genesis. The evening air was calm, but her thoughts weren't. as calm as the evening air. As she approached the driver's door, she paused for a moment and looked up at the sky. Everything about tonight felt different. Just a few hours ago, she had walked into church expecting an ordinary Sunday service. Instead, she had witnessed Logan being ordained as an assistant pastor, watched an entire congregation celebrate him, and then found herself standing on the outside of a conversation that she fully did not understand. The words still lingered in her mind. "You've been to my house many times before." Victoria opened the driver's side door and glanced at the beautiful white interior of her vehicle. She wasn't angry. Not yet. She was simply trying to understand. Logan had reassured her on the phone. He had reminded her that she was his girl and that he wanted her there with him. Part of her found comfort in those words. The other part of her couldn't ignore what she had seen with her own eyes. Slowly, she climbed into the driver's seat and placed her purse beside her. Tonight wasn't about proving a point. It wasn't about competing with anyone, and it certainly wasn't about causing a scene. Victoria had spent too many years learning how to carry herself with dignity to allow one uncomfortable moment to change that. If there were answers to be found, she would find them with grace. If there were misunderstandings, they would eventually come to light. And if there was something else she needed to know about Logan, tonight would reveal it. She took a deep breath, started the engine, and entered the address Logan had sent her. As the navigation began giving directions, Victoria pulled out of her driveway and headed towards Sister Sadia's house. What she didn't know was that before the night was over, she would learn far more than she had expected. As Victoria followed the GPS directions, she couldn't help but notice that the homes in the neighborhood became larger and more impressive with every turn. Finally, the voice from the navigation system announced, "You have arrived at your destination." Victoria slowly pulled her vehicle up to the curb and looked. "This is it," she said to herself softly. The house was beautiful. Elegant landscaping surrounded the property, and several vehicles were already parked outside. Victoria glanced from one vehicle to the next, searching for the one she expected to see, Logan's. But she didn't see it. She looked again. Nothing. A small crease formed between her eyebrows. Had she come to the wrong address? Victoria reached for her phone and pressed Logan's name. The phone barely rang before he answered. "Hey," Logan said. "Where are you?" Victoria asked. "I'm outside, but I don't see your vehicle." Logan laughed lightly. "That's because you're looking in the wrong place." "What do you mean?" "I'm already inside. I just came through the door a few minutes ago. My vehicle is parked around back." Victoria looked towards the side of the house. "Oh." "Come on in," Logan said warmly. "I'll meet you at the door." For a brief moment, Victoria sat quietly in her vehicle. This was it. No more wondering what Sister Sadia's house looked like. No more wondering who would be there. No more wondering how the evening would unfold. She was about to find out. "Okay," she finally replied. "I'm coming. I'll be waiting." The call ended. Victoria slipped her phone into her purse and took a deep breath. Then she stepped out of her vehicle, smoothed the front of her jacket, and made her way toward the front entrance. She walked toward the door. She noticed light shining through the windows and the sound of laughter coming from inside. And standing just beyond the entrance, waiting exactly where he said he would be, was Logan. As Victoria stepped onto the porch, Logan opened the door and waited for her. The warm glow from inside spilled out into the evening air, casting a soft light around them. For a moment, neither of them moved. They simply stood there talking. Logan looked Victoria over and smiled. "You look beautiful tonight," he said. "One thing I've always admired about you is that you know how to put yourself together. No matter the occasion, you always look good." Victoria laughed softly. "Thank you." Then Logan's expression shifted, becoming more thoughtful. "I'm proud of you." Victoria tilted her head. "Proud of me? For what?" Logan looked at her for a moment, but didn't answer. "I just want you to know that I'm proud of you," he repeated. Victoria narrowed her eyes. That wasn't an answer. Logan chuckled and shook his head. Instead, he asked, "Did you notice when Pastor leaned over and whispered something in my ear today?" "Of course I noticed," Victoria replied. "You looked at me right afterward. There was nothing funny about it," Logan said. "My pastor is a man who hears from God, and he spoke something very profound to me while I was standing in that pulpit." Victoria's curiosity immediately kicked in. "Well, what did he say?" Logan grinned. "This isn't the time for me to tell you." "Logan," Victoria groaned, "I don't like when you do that. Don't introduce something you're not going to tell me the ending." He laughed. "I know. I'm just trying to get you to relax." Victoria folded her arms. "Well, it's not working. Find another way." "Fair enough," he replied. For a brief moment, they stood there, smiling with one another. Then Logan straightened himself and looked toward the open doorway. "Are you ready to go inside?" Victoria glanced past him into the house. The thought of seeing Sister Sadia again immediately tightened her stomach. She took a breath and said, "As ready as I'll ever be." Logan seemed to sense exactly what she was feeling. His voice softened. "Victoria, relax. Everything is going to be just fine." Then he opened the door a little wider, offered his hand, and added with quiet confidence, "I got this." Victoria looked at him for a second, searching his face for reassurance. Whatever Pastor had whispered to him earlier had given him a confidence that she hadn't seen before. Taking a deep breath, she placed her hand in his. Together, they walked through the door. What do you think Logan's pastor said to him while he was in the pulpit? Put your response in the comment. And do you think that Victoria should have gone to the dinner? Put your answers in the comment. Remember to like, share, and comment. Also, if you haven't done so already, subscribe. And once again, thanks for watching. Remember, tomorrow's episode is going to be a blast. I'll see you then. Bye.